listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for letting me spend some time with you on a not scheduled day. I am not being monitored or supervised by anyone other than Susie, and you may hear her playing in the background, and maybe not, but hope it doesn't interfere with the audio. I'm going to admit I'm a little hesitant to talk about what happened yesterday in Israel, mostly because this is still such a fluid event. Things are happening. Decisions are being made. We don't know the outcome of everything yet. However, there's a lot of people who are worried, a lot of people who are concerned. They're wondering what's going on, what all this might mean. And I thought I should probably let the people who listen to me know what I know, and what to be watching for. What should we be seeing? Now, excuse me, I just ate a piece of candy and it's kind of stuck. A lot of the people that I know who may have been directly involved with, gathering information, so to speak, they've retired. They're no longer directly in the loop. But some are kind of still in, and what I hear from them is, and this is going to sound strange, but the reality is nobody knows for sure why this attack took the form that it took. Certainly Iran knows that Iron Dome exists, and they knew that the United States military was there. And so if you really wanted to do something, why do it this way? And they knew that Iran was going to do something, but they weren't exactly sure what it was going to look like. Now we know. We just don't know why they chose the way they chose. There's a lot of speculation going on, a lot of speculation. And it happens when you're looking for clues, you're trying to figure out what's happening, and you start to guess. And that's what speculation is. It's a guess. But let's dig into some of this and see if we can make a little sense out of something. The attack against Israel a year ago, it began a series of events that has had that entire part of the world in turmoil ever since. And let's be honest, that the response from the United States, United Nations, other countries, it's really not been helpful. It really hasn't. Large countries want to, well, I should say, other larger nations than Israel, they want to treat the conflict, especially between the Persian and the Israelis, they want to treat this as if they're two puppies fighting over a bone. Just kind of let them work it out. They'll either somebody's going to win or they'll both get tired and lay down. Right? It doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way for some reasons. There's been negotiations for peace, and neither side can really agree on how to achieve that. The only thing that those negotiations have done is to make matters worse. Let's be honest. They've made matters worse. The peace negotiators obviously don't have a clue. And if they do, they don't want to admit it. They don't understand what the foundation of the reason is for the conflict. In the past, wars have typically been fought over land or resources or other reasons. But this conflict began a very, very, very long time ago. So long ago, you might not realize when it began. When the children of Noah settled in the land of Shinar, on the plains of Shinar, it later became known as Persia. Now it is kind of the Iraq-Iran area, generally speaking. It may have stretched a little into Turkey, and it may have gone to some other places, but that's basically the heart of it. We know what came from that was Nimrod, who was considered a god by many, and of course that led to the tower, the confusion of the language, the dispersion of the people. But the people who stayed in that area became known as Persians. And there is a very distinct difference between them and the people of other nearby nations. Now, the Persians remained primarily pagan. Okay, it was the heart of pagan worship. And other nations around that took some of that paganism with them, but not to the extent that it stayed in the area of Persia. Without getting really deep into history, okay, to explain all of that, the Persians, being primarily pagan worshipers, continued following the path of Nimrod. And the surrounding peoples, they didn't have that outright hatred for our Creator. But the Persian people did. And it's carried over quite obviously with many of them today. If you look at the legends, Shem may have contributed to this. Noah's son Shem was the righteous king. And the legend is that it was Shem who killed Nimrod eventually, cut him into little bitty pieces, and buried those pieces all around the plains of Shinar. Now, legends get started for reasons, and whether it's true or not, we don't know. We simply know that this is the legend. The ancient people remembered this. They remembered their hatred for God, and that hatred is extended to the Jewish people today. And it's, this is the foundational reason for the hostility from Iran. They hate, and they've hated anyone who has anything to do with our Creator for 4,000 years. It's just that simple. Now, if the peace negotiators admitted this, that would mean that they're admitting to the Bible being real. And, they can't do that. With them, it all, it's all political. It's all this, it's all that. We can't have anything to do with religion here because we might offend somebody. But if you realize that the conflict is between those who love God and those who hate God, kind of puts it all into perspective. And the basis for the hostility, it is not found in wanting land, wanting resources. Somebody committed adultery with somebody else's wife. What typical wars have been fought over for centuries. So what do these current events mean, and how should we view them? I'm going to say this first, and it's important. The hostilities between people who love God and people who hate God is typically always I hate to use the word sign, but it's an indicator of something's going to happen. Something is going to happen. Look at history. When the Egyptians invited the children of Abraham into their country, they gave them the best land in the land of Goshen. It was because Joseph had saved the nation and the entire area from starvation. Later, when the Egyptians thought, well, we don't need you anymore, we can go back and worship our many Egyptian gods, and we don't need you anymore. It began hostilities towards the children of Abraham. And we know where that led, right? Later, when the Israelites went into the land, there was war. Whenever there is hostilities between people who follow the Creator and people who don't, something is going to happen. Look what happened when the Greeks decided they were going to sacrifice a pig in the temple. It led to the what's known as the Maccabean Rebellion. There was war. So we had this historical evidence that our Creator actually uses these hostilities to make his plan for mankind come together. So what does that all mean for us watching the news, watching the rockets explode in air? What's it mean for us today? Well, I want everyone listening to know what I'm about to say is a guess. It's speculation. I don't like to do that. But because these events are still going on, they're not over yet, all we can do is kind of guess how these things fit. Until they're over, until they're done, we won't know with any degree of certainty. It's just that simple. Now, we know our Creator promised Abraham more land than what is the current political nation of Israel today, right? Genesis 15:18 says, on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I have given this land from the river of Egypt, and everybody understands that's the Nile, to the great river Euphrates. That's a huge, huge chunk of land. Now, later in Exodus 29 and 30, he tells Moses, I will not drive them out before you in a single year. Otherwise, the land will become desolate. The wild animals would multiply against you. Little by little, I will drive them out ahead of you until you become fruitful and possess the land. Now, Israel has never possessed all of the land that was promised to Abraham. And even after Israel became a political nation after World War II, it simply wasn't strong enough to possess all of the land, right? Nothing that these negotiators have ever done has worked to bring a lasting peace, because that's not the way our Creator works. It's not the way our Creator works. He promised Abraham a certain amount of land. Now, he didn't say that would be on the new earth, right? He said it in such a way Abraham understood exactly what his descendants would eventually care for, be responsible for, possibly even own. Well, do we actually own it? Not really. It's still the Almighty's. Something else I want to point out is that nothing in the Bible indicates prophecy needs to be chronological. Okay, we have certain events that are given. Sometimes something takes place before something else. Nothing says it has to be chronological. It simply says that it will happen. So remember that. Because at no time in the past could Israel have been strong enough or poised in the right position to acquire more of the land that was promised than they are right now. They have the strength, they have the resources to expand, and I need to be careful. I need to be careful and make sure everybody knows that I'm not saying that the political leadership in Israel wants to expand at this time. Actually, I think they would be quite comfortable if everybody around them would just stop trying to kill them, right? I'm not saying that they want more land. I'm simply saying never before in history, not in the last 75 years, has the United States been in such a weakened position politically. It's not able to prevent a smaller nation from being so aggressive towards Israel. There's been smaller conflicts, there's been smaller things, but nothing on this scale. Not since Israel became a nation in 1947 has the world been so divided that it was not able to prevent a major conflict in the Middle East. Like I said, there's been small skirmishes. We call them wars, but nothing to match even what we're seeing really in Ukraine and Russia right now. All of these things are building up. All of these things are happening. And they're all happening possibly so that what happens through Israel, and I say through Israel, can take place. And like I said, all of this is a guess because these events are fluid. They're still happening. Until they're done, we're not going to know exactly how they fit into biblical prophecy. So we need to be very, very careful. We need to watch what happens, and probably more importantly, how it happens. Because our Creator, in my opinion, is getting ready to do something. He's working. I don't know what it is yet, but I think it might be big. And when I say big, I think it might be really big. Now, could this be the beginning of our Creator keeping his promise to Abraham? That possibility is not out of the question right now. The conflict is not just between Iran and Israel or between Muslims and Jews. The conflict is between good and evil. And good and evil don't live in nations. Good and evil live in the hearts of people. Now, in the United States, we have a very poor understanding of who's who in the Middle East. Trust me, I'm a product of public education. They don't really teach this stuff in school. What we need to realize is Persians are not Arab. And even though they claim to be Muslims, the Persians themselves have corrupted the Quran to suit their own desires. So we need to be very, very careful who's trying to tell you with any amount of certainty that they know how this fits into Bible prophecy, because they don't know. They can't know. The only way you can know is after it has happened. And then you can look back and see how it fits. You can look back and say, okay, we know, to use this analogy, that tab A fit into slot B, but it can't be all of this prophecy because, slot C is missing and there's no tab D either. So as we're trying to put these things together, we have to do it correctly. The only way to do that is after it's finished and you can look back, say, this is how it happened, this is how it worked. What I do know, and I can say this with a great deal of certainty, that after it's done, and we look back and we start fitting the pieces together, when that puzzle is complete, there's not going to be any doubt about what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and who was in complete control over the entirety of creation. We need to be watchful, not just watching the news, but watching how things play out. And, why did Iran choose to send missiles when they knew they were going to be destroyed in the air? I don't know. Maybe they're thinking, well, if we do this, we know it won't be that bad. I kind of doubt that. What I really think is that our Creator himself had a hand in it. I think he probably sent one of his divine beings down, just like he did, I believe it was with Ahab, and he became a lying spirit in the mouth of their prophets. It's happened before, and it will probably happen again many times, because our Creator is still in control, complete control over his creation. And nothing happens that he does not approve. So what's all this mean? It means we watch. It means we learn. It means we study how our Creator has done things in the past and how he might do them in the future. It means he's keeping his promises, all of them. He's keeping his promises to Abraham, and he's keeping his promises to us today. And his promise to us today is if we are faithful, he will be faithful. If we're doing the best we can do to treat each other with love, respect, dignity, and compassion, that's how he's going to treat us. Doesn't mean we're all going to live through it. It simply means we have his promise that he will keep us close to him. Hopefully, as you're watching these things unfold, you can take some comfort knowing that nothing happens that our Creator does not approve. Everything happens for a reason. The world is divided for a reason. Certain nations are politically weak for a reason. And if that reason is for the Almighty to fulfill his promises, we should be okay with that. Doesn't mean we have to like it. We just need to be okay with it. I didn't want to take the time tomorrow night on our regularly scheduled podcast to talk about this. But you need to understand, it's not the end of the world. I know a lot of people are talking about World War III. It may be. If that's how the Almighty chooses to keep his promise to Abraham, we might not like it. We just have to be okay with it. And find some comfort knowing whatever he does for us. We may not think so at the time, but whatever he does for us. He keeps his promises. Sometimes when people keep their promises, things happen that we don't really like. Sometimes when people keep their promises, things happen that are miraculous. When our Creator keeps his promises, there will be a division between good and evil. And you're going to know it when you see it. I hope that brings you a little bit of comfort in what's going on in the world today and yesterday. And until tomorrow night, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.